Hello, and welcome to Sustainable Outlook, a podcast from global law firm K&L Gates, where we discuss the transactions, technologies, and trends in the sustainable economy. We hope you enjoy this discussion. Please reach out with suggested topics or guests, or questions about how we can work together to create a sustainable economy.
Welcome to Sustainable Outlook. I'm thrilled today to be speaking with Kristina Ribellia, the founder and president of Western Water Market. Western Water Market is an online marketplace connecting water right buyers and sellers across the West. And I got to know Kristina when one of my clients was looking for a place to sell a very large block of newly available water. And it's been a great journey to work with her a little bit further in that and then get to know her. Kristina thinks big, and her story is one of taking an amazing idea and actually figuring out how to put it into action. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, Kristina. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Of course, this is a real treat. So first, can you tell us about your path to starting the Western Water Market? Why was this something that you realized the world needed? Because we did. And what did it take to get it going?
Yeah, so I was a project manager between 2014 and 2019 with Washington Water Trust, a statewide nonprofit, where I was mainly working to lease and acquire water rights for in-stream flow. And over those 5 years, I found just how difficult it was for us as water right buyers to connect with people who are interested in potentially leasing or selling their water rights. And at the same time, we were getting people who were interested in selling their water rights, but they weren't necessarily fitting the needs of our buyers. And I would say, well, have you talked to maybe the county? Have you talked to so-and-so? And it was just really this word of mouth network, which can be great, but I also found it to be incredibly inefficient. And just thought, there's got to be a better way for water right buyers and sellers to connect. And that's how I really just came up with Western Water Market, this go-to place for water right buyers and sellers to connect locally across the West. It's similar to, it's very basic. It's similar to Zillow for real estate or even Craigslist. It's just this service where buyers and sellers, again, can connect. So it took me about 6 months to develop the platform and the branding around Western Water Market. I launched it with a few listings that I just had created based on my knowledge of the water market here in Washington, and shared it with my professional network, folks that I'd been working with over the previous 5 years or so, and said, what do you think? Do you have any clients that would be interested in listing on the market? Would you like to list on the market yourself? And there was thankfully quite a bit of interest and support. So that's how it got started. I was really careful not to share this idea with anyone because I didn't want anyone to tell me that's not a good idea. Don't do it. You may be blackballed for doing that, whatever it may be, right? I didn't want my idea to be influenced by that. And I also didn't want it to necessarily be taken by someone else and created in a way that I wasn't really a part of or supportive of. So that's how we got started here.
Understood. And I hadn't thought about it before, but I like the analogy to Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. It's kind of this open market for whoever wants to participate. And it's a way to create those conversations. And, those marketplaces are huge. And Western Water Market is growing, which is really exciting. Is it the only thing you do now? Do you still do other work, or is your focus Western Water Market?
So the first 2 years, I was really focused on building Western Water Market. I recently was recruited to help manage our conservation district locally. And so that's been a great outlet and passion. I worked for them previously years ago, and it's just been great to come back to do that work locally. So 2 hats now.
Congrats. That's exciting. So when you're wearing the Western Water Market hat, what are some of the challenges that you face, as well as some of the opportunities as it expands and you have more participants come into the market?
So one of the challenges is, there's just not as many water right transactions occurring in the West as, say, real estate, right? So to get those buyers and sellers on the market is a little bit tougher. We are newer, and it's going to take several more years, I think, to really become that household name, that place to buy and sell water in the West. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge to be known. And that's what we're doing every day with the market, is getting our name out there, working with professionals, using our social media channels and other ways of marketing to help build awareness that we are a tool and a resource that's available. So while it's growing and it's growing quickly, it's just going to take, I know, several more years to really become that household name. That's definitely a challenge.
What about the opportunities? For the buyers and sellers out there, what kind of opportunities would you like them to be thinking about when they think about the marketplace?
Oh, so great. So for one, I think that this is just, there's tremendous opportunity, especially around leasing water rights. So folks who may not be interested in selling right now, but do have a large quantity of water that could be leased, this is a great way to get in front of people who are needing water rights, right? And so there's a ton of opportunities, whether it's through leasing, selling, certainly as buyers to be able to find folks who are interested in leasing or selling their water rights, running auctions. Because it's such a tool and a resource, it's really being used in different ways depending on the local needs, right? Or depending on the needs of people's clients. It's broad enough and it's just this kind of open platform, like you mentioned, that anyone can participate on the market. It's just the opportunities are endless.
That's exciting. And that was something that when I first learned about the marketplace, I think I mentioned was for a client that has a very large chunk of water that they will really no longer be needing in the kind of clean tech, clean energy transition. And so all of a sudden there's this new resources opened up to so many different players in the area, municipalities, farmers, industry, developers, and also for in-stream flow for fish and ecological purposes. And so what's been exciting about working with the market is that my client can list this on your marketplace. And it's just, the audience is so broad. Anybody can come and take a look and then start to work with them to figure out how they can purchase and peel off a slice of this water. And so it was a really great way to kind of disseminate to the world, hey, this is happening, rather than kind of the word of mouth that you talk about, particularly because, you and I know water rights transactions and changes often happen in much more rural areas. And so it's just, sometimes it's harder to get the communication and the messages across. And so we see that, when I say we, my client and I see that as just such a great tool. That's broad scale, right? Like this is a big chunk of water coming into the market. Can you give us an example of a smaller scale transaction or situation that occurred that you were able to facilitate as part of Western Water Market?
Yeah, sure. So we have, a few listings right now on the market. We've had others come on and off that are really much different in the sense that they are for sale by owner. Right? They're for sale by owner. They don't have a professional network that's supporting a large block of water. I'm thinking of one in Colorado specifically. It's a gentleman. He's a farmer. He has more water than he currently needs and anticipates needing in the future. And he wanted a place to be able to market his water right. He's not currently working with a consultant or an attorney, but this is a platform that's giving him access to potential buyers. So he's had several inquiries and interests in that water, and he hasn't pulled the trigger yet. It's a very valuable water right. And so it's just fascinating. But I love that about the market, right? You can have this large block of water with your client, very high profile client, large amount of water. The certificates from that large block of water can be reissued very quickly because of all the work that has been done previously to vet that water right. In this case, in Colorado, those water rights haven't been vetted yet, right? So that's part of just to be aware on the market, because we have for sale by owner water rights on the market, it can look very different from listing to listing, but it's still allowing any water right holder to be able to participate in the market. We're not limiting it to a few.
And I love that because I spoke about a large scale client, but there are so many people like the farmer in Colorado that you're talking about that don't have access to the network of professionals, which you also list on your website, to say, hey, we can help you figure this out. It's complicated and complex, but we're here to help. And, please reach out to us. And I love that component of it too, because I know from my own water rights work, when I start working with individuals like the farmer you described or families that have had the water right, for generations, I start talking about, the Washington Water Code, and they kind of go, oh, we didn't understand that it would be this complicated. And so I can draw on my knowledge as well as a lot of the consultants that you have on the website to do the hydrogeological work, the water resources work. And it just creates a great kind of safety net for everybody participating. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
That's absolutely it. And that's really why the third leg of the stool for Western Water Market is our professional network. Right? So folks they just can't. They can't do a water right transaction without the professional support that that is needed for a successful transaction, whether that's a hydrogeologist, it's, a consultant, it's an attorney. It usually takes a team for a water right transaction and transfer to be successful. And you really need folks who are experts locally in order to provide that support that is needed. Right. So that's why we have this growing network of water right professionals across the West that are helping support and serve people locally. I think we're in 7 states now, which is really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to make sure our listeners know you're not just in Washington and Oregon. You're in Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. Did I miss any?
Yes. Okay. I think you've hit Idaho. I think you mentioned that. Yeah. And it's growing every month. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And particularly that local aspect, right? So your farmer in Colorado shouldn't necessarily be calling me to help, right? There should be local counsel in Colorado because water rights is so location specific, or someone in Idaho. I mean, we can all get together nationally and talk about water rights, but it's an education when I start to talk to someone who does water rights in another state.
Yes.
So it's great that you provide that resource locally too.
Alyssa, that is actually one of the biggest challenges for the market. When I think about it a bit more, is that water rights are so local, right? The laws, policies, regulations around water rights and how they're managed and how they can be transacted. So that is a challenge when you're trying to provide this, nationwide service to help connect water right buyers and sellers. When we start talking about what can and can't be done, it's really tough in terms of providing educational materials, marketing materials that don't mislead someone in Idaho who would have a very different experience if they were in California, right? It's just a bit of a challenge because water rights are so local. And that's again why I've really left the market open in the sense of not trying to build a lot of rules into how it's utilized as a tool or resource. Really depending on the professional network to help provide the support that's needed.
So I think you need to come to the next National Water Law Conference that's put on by the Rocky Mountain Mineral Law Foundation and start talking to some of the folks, that are in these different states, because I think that could be really exciting for the market for sure.
Oh, thank you. I would love that.
We'll talk about it.
Really great.
So this particular podcast, we talk about all things sustainability. And in my mind, water is it's a critical component of the sustainability framework when you think about it. But can we hear from you about why your particular work in the water market is important to the overall kind of sustainability efforts that we think about, in the West and broadly?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that water as a commodity is not a bad thing necessarily, right? This really providing or assigning this value to a water right, a private property right, is a good thing. When we do that and water rights are properly valued, people are going to tend to conserve that water and really only use what they need and choose to potentially lease or sell the water or just continue to conserve it for the time. But by having a market that really helps increase these efficiencies, we're able to help move water where it's really needed most. And again, have people conserve and use less water because of the value of that. So I think that just having a more robust market is really a good thing when we're thinking about our communities and conserving resources. And it allows for potential future uses without necessarily taking more water or being assigned more water that then is actually physically or even legally available, right? It's working within a framework that's really meant to conserve and more efficiently reallocate our limited water resources. So I hope that the market continues to help facilitate that so that we can continue to have really sustainable water management, sustainable community development in a way that is really consistent with conserving the resource.
Yeah, I think your point about managing it from a regulatory perspective as well. So there's kind of the marketplace perspective and valuing it and making it more efficient. And then I also see what the market does as leveraging the regulatory tools that are emerging and have become available, such as water banking, purchase for ecological and in-stream flow. I think it really allows water market participants to leverage those regulatory resources that in the end do conserve the resource and better value and put to the best use in that area, where the water needs to be. And I think it also, if the market is exposing the participants to the expertise that you're offering out there, so like some of the water resources consultants that I know are on your webpage and that I work with are so good about thinking through how to most efficiently use a resource, and then what you can do when you've got the remaining and you don't want to relinquish it, where the opportunities are to put it back into a river or to make it more available for a community. I think the more we learn from each other, kind of the more sustainably we'll be using the resource. So I think that part's really exciting too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many great tools out there and mechanisms for us to really make the most of our water resources. Absolutely.
So to wrap it up, is there anything kind of coming around the bend for the Western Water Market, or anything exciting that you see in trends that you would want to leave our listeners with?
Oh, that's a great question. I definitely have updates coming to the market in terms of it's evolving, and we'll have some new tools and things that are coming on Western Water Market specifically to help use or to help improve usability of the market. And so I'm very excited about that and improving the tools there. I think I'm just thinking, with the market and what's happening, that it's just going to continue to grow and expand. So in addition to some of the updates that we're going to do to our platform, it's really just exciting. Like I mentioned, every month we're growing more and more. And we have a new water right coming on the market, or a new water source coming on the market in Michigan even this week, which is just, I can't even begin to fully understand what that means. But there are professionals there that are supporting this listing. And so that's coming up. So I think every day, new things are happening with the market, and it's just gaining more and more interest and growth in ways that I never could have anticipated. So yeah, I can't even begin to share more about, where this may go in the future. It's really an unknown. And I think it's an awesome social experiment, to tell you the truth. It really is. Yeah. So I'm just very open to seeing how it evolves and really can grow to be that go-to place to help buy and sell water in the West.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Michigan, that's really exciting.
I know, not even in the West, right? But it just goes to show that this is such a needed tool and resource. And I've actually heard this internationally as well, from international interests, that there just isn't this place yet. And we're really helping fill that need. So thank you so much for coming on the market, Alyssa, to help serve buyers and sellers.
Of course. No, I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And it's elicited some interesting conversations from my colleagues on my end as well. You put up a link in post about us joining, and then all of a sudden people were saying, wait, what is this? And I might have a client who's interested. And there's this PFAS question. And if people need to buy and sell water, but it's, got PFAS in it, what does that mean? And so it's really caused a buzz, which has been fun to follow up on. So I appreciate being able to participate for sure. So, well, with that, I'm just going to say thanks so much. And it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I know you have your own podcast associated with Western Water Market. And I would encourage any of our listeners to listen to Kristina. She's got a little bit more of her story on that podcast. And then she brings on some just really interesting people to talk about water rights in the West, whether it's attorneys, water rights consultants, people buying and selling water. And I've really enjoyed learning a lot from that. So please go ahead and visit that podcast when you get a chance.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainable Outlook. To listen to past episodes and receive notices for new episodes, subscribe by searching Hub Talks, that's HUB Talks, in your favorite podcast app. We hope you will tune in next time to learn more about the outlook of the burgeoning sustainable economy.